And we are back. My name is Luke Thomas. That is Danny Segura, Phoenix Carnivale. And at the end, Iceman Chuck Mindenhall, the man in the hat. This is After the Beat, where we have taken your tweets using the hashtag the MMA Beat. And I have picked out the best, and by the best, I mean the most usable, Chuck. Okay. Your favorite.
Nice.
No, these ones are good. They're good. They're a little bit light and crispy, like a Zima or something. I don't know.
Zima.
You ever had one of those?
Yes, they were
I remember
horrible.
one time I was at my fraternity house, and I had a fraternity brother, and this is a true story. He was in there drinking a Zima on my couch. First of all, why are you on my couch? Second of all, he was drinking a Zima, and he had put the Jolly Ranchers in it. I literally took it and chucked it out the window. He got all bitter at me, but I was like, who are you? Get out. All right.
Terrible.
All right, first up, what do we got? Okay, Phoenix, who is the most forgotten champion that used to be considered dominant? Franklin, someone else? I think they mean just someone who was a champion back in the day, who people don't really think of these days as like all that great or remember or whatever.
I think Zach has a point. I think Renan Barão really was, like nobody really talks about how good he was at the time. You know, it was Aldo and Barão. You would always see the two of them just dominating people at the time. I really do feel like he's been pretty much forgotten.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody got a champion up there?
Barão does come to mind. The way that he was being talked about was not just that he was the best in his division, but he was like the pound for pound list, right? Like
Renan Barão is a monster.
Yeah, exactly. He had a short stint as a champion.
Yeah, but he had something like a decade run where he hadn't lost. So it was still in full effect. We didn't really see him.
It's just when the wheels came off.
Yeah, they came
off, you know.
But yeah, he would probably be the biggest one I can think of.
Yeah. He mentioned Rich Franklin too, and it was like Rich Franklin was like the man.
Yeah.
And then Anderson Silva.
Anything in MMA.
You
know? I feel like maybe some of the WEC guys that were really good.
Mike Brown was a good champion.
Mike Brown was one of the best in the world at some point.
WEC was like, we got to make Uriah champion again, and just couldn't get through Mike Brown, man.
Yeah. He has 2 wins over him, right?
Yeah, 2 times. I'm gonna say anybody who's watching MMA back in the day will be like, yup. Murillo Bustamante. Yeah. Murillo Bustamante used to be one of these guys who was one of these first jiu-jitsu black belts who was athletic, and you know, I think was obviously more of a ground specialist than anything else, but could do it all as well. Had some solid wins. Was a good competitor. Was a champion. Fought all over the world. Murillo Bustamante was an awesome fighter. I really liked watching him compete.
Yeah.
So that was the one I would say. All right, next. Let's see here, Danny. What is your favorite Olympic event? One winter and one summer.
Well, my favorite Olympic event, I would say wrestling.
Okay, wrestling. That's the Summer Games.
Yeah.
Now give me a Winter Games.
I like watching Shaun White always kill it.
On the half pipe?
The half pipe.
What they call it?
So that's fun.
That is pretty cool. Like if you watch just skateboarding, it's impressive. But that big ass like half tunnel they dig, and these guys are going sky high, man. What about you?
Feet up there,
Oh, it's just an easy answer for me.
All right.
Judo.
Judo is your Summer Games.
Yeah, it's my summer. Winter, I actually do like to see the figure skating because I'm
figure
I'm mesmerized by it because I could never do that in my life. Yeah.
It's good to have a woman on the panel. Yeah, it's good.
I like the speed skating, and I like the swimming for those 2 reasons. I mean, it's amazing.
Like the racing or like the dancing swimming?
No, like
Phelps.
Like Phelps. You watch that, and it's just anything like that is just like such a triumph of human spirit. You're watching these guys do this. You're like, what is going on?
Also, swimming is butt hard.
I know.
Yeah.
So maybe those, but I mean, there's a lot.
What about in the winter? You said which one was the speed skating?
Yeah, just watching how graceful and fast they're going.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
hockey's fun. I like all of it.
Hockey's a great one,
man.
Hockey's not. I mean, hockey's the thing they put in the Olympics.
I know.
I'm going to go for winter. I'm going to go, it's not the bobsled, but it's the single one. So it's face first, the skeleton. Yeah. When they go on those runs, those are like, those.
Terrifying.
I mean, those guys are just bonkers.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I'll say that for the Winter Games. For the Summer Games, I'm going to go with the weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah, surprise.
Well, it's just, here's the thing. Like, you can teach yourself to weightlift. And you can teach yourself to bodybuild. You can teach yourself to powerlift. I make this argument. You cannot teach yourself to weightlift. It is so technical and so difficult that you need a coach to do that. You can teach yourself poorly or something, but you need help with that one because it's an amazing sport and it's worldwide. So you get a lot of talented people. So I like those 2. All right, next. Chuck. Which fighter have you enjoyed interviewing the most?
Oh man, I like Jim Miller a lot. I know he's kind of
You have a thing for him.
I've always liked. I mean, he's just very like he's so down to earth. You feel like you're not talking to you. You have to remember that he's a fighter because he just talks to you so nonchalantly about everything.
Yeah.
But I've always enjoyed him just personally when you're just talking about Ben Askren also. Like I find him a similar thing, but you see his swells up of his cockiness and things like that, which I always But he's very those two guys are very, very good every time.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, you've interviewed a ton of these people.
Pat Barry was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just a really crazy, fun interview. I love Brian Ortega. He's easy to talk to because he just likes to talk.
Yeah.
And Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva.
Really?
Wow, because I've never had a good conversation.
Because
in English or through a translator?
Both. We kind of did both, and I was so brand new. And he knew that I was nervous, and he went with it. So I said, "Listen, I'm gonna interview you. I'm really nervous. I'm gonna act starstruck." So he was okay. So he messed with me during the interview, and then even when I would try to interview him at a UFC event, I'd be like, "Hi, excuse me, Anderson Silva, Phoenix." He'd be like, and it would be cute, and he would play with me, and it was always a lot of fun to talk to him.
I feel like in MMA, there's a lot of good people to interview. Michael Chiesa is a great interview. I've talked to him a number of times. He's always super candid, always in a good mood. Very good guy to talk to. Also, Brad Pickett. Brad Pickett's awesome to talk to. He's really funny. And again, a very honest guy as well, very honest with himself and very smart guy too. So I would say those two. I
would go, there's a lot, man, I'm trying to think.
There's a lot,
I would go, more recently, Adesanya's been a great guy to talk to if you can get the time, and he's pretty accommodating with his time, which, by the way, I feel like that's going to start going away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you noticed Adesanya makes time for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he beats...
So did McGregor originally.
Yeah, it's like, that's going to start getting harder and harder. I'll go Cormier. Because I had one time, Fox Sports put together like a media day, and this was for, was it 205? I can't remember which card it was, but Cormier was commentating. And so they had like Anik there, and they had like Karen Bryant, Kenny Florian, and Cormier. And I sat down with Cormier. He had all his kids there and his wife, and they were eating. And he took a plate, and we were talking about wrestling, and he was showing me different angles of attacks on wrestling. And it was just this really informal conversation, and I put it on YouTube without any I didn't edit it for a sound or nothing, and it blew up only because of what he was saying, nothing because I was asking all that interesting. He's just a smart guy who has a lot of experience, and it's fun to dig into it. All right, next. Phoenix, what's the biggest problem in MMA? Is it judging, commissions, or PEDs? Please rank.
Jeez.
We have to choose from those?
Yeah, that's, I mean, you see what I see.
Judging, commission.
If you wanted to add in another one, you could.
Can you put the list back up?
Hey, can we see the tweets one more time?
Yeah,
Is it judging, commissions, or the juice? O.J. Simpson.
I feel like it's the uncertainty of your event because it never, things change so often that you have to be a true MMA fan. You always have to be like willing to roll with the punches, like literally, because a card that is designed one way becomes something else. Somebody has to step in. You have to be really adaptable to these cards. To me, that's a problem, but I don't know. That's just like injuries, things like that. The red flags of USADA, all the things that come up that can intervene. It's just the uncertainty of an event.
That makes sense because that ties in a lot of those factors. When it comes to the steroid use or USADA, I think the most confusing thing is like what people are being popped for and what's a pico and whatever. And it's just like because I don't remember what fighter it was, but he got popped for like acne medication and things like that. So sometimes just being afraid to take any type of supplement, which athletes need, just the fear of what I'm going to get popped for and what's legal and what isn't. And because I'm not a fighter, so I don't get it in the mail to tell me exactly. I don't know how unclear it is to them. I think that's just such a big issue. Very scary thing.
Yeah, I would say number one would have to be, I guess, the juicing, because that's tied to USADA and all that. And we know that's, destroyed cards, that's changed locations of cards, that's changed tons of things. So I would say that, and then followed by probably judging.
I'll go two different problems. I'll say the biggest problem, well, I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the things I identify as I think a major problem for me is I think the moral relativism. There's a lot of rot in MMA where a lot of people who are associated with like legitimately terrible people and everyone just kind of like looks the other way.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. The other one I would say is Like, people are like, oh, commissions are the problem. Like, commission overreach is the problem, but the commissions are not a problem. You can't have a functioning sport without them. You need them to watch and license these guys and sanction promotions when necessary. So that's not it. I actually don't have a problem with judging as we've set it up. I think it could be better, but like when you really begin to break down why judging is bad, it's actually completely understandable. So I don't have a problem with that exactly. I would say the other one for me, and you guys know I don't think PEDs is that big of a problem because I'm not a moral hysteric. But that's just me being rational. In any event, the biggest problem I would say is the lack of fighter union. Or some kind, if not a union, some kind of apparatus to even the playing field.
Yeah.
Because it pops up every week like whack-a-mole, where it manifests itself some other way, and it would solve a lot of problems. I think that's the biggest.
More clarity and balance.
Total. You were talking about interim titles earlier.
Sure.
We would have an answer.
Clarity and
We would have an answer, and some of those answers would be unsatisfying.
Well, a union will tackle like so many other problems. That's the thing. Yeah.
Right, and you can look up the CBA for like the NFL or NBA. They're all online. You can look them up. You could see just how far-reaching they go. It's crazy. Like the Habib thing, I was talking about it. You know, if you get sanctioned by the NBA, let's say you throw a punch on the court and they sanction you, you have a right to a video conference with the league, and you have a right to an independent arbitration. And you got guys like, Jabari Parker. 2-year, $40 million deal. Jabari Parker is barely in the league and he's making $20 million. He can afford attorneys all effing day.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And you got Habib, $500,000 fine. There's no recourse.
Yeah.
Zero. None. It's a big problem. Next. All right, Danny. We often talk about the talented UFC commentators. In your opinion, which sports have the best color commentators and which have the best play-by-play? E.g., this person says, I think soccer has some of the best play-by-play but terrible color. I'd actually agree with that. You hear a lot of really good play-by-play in soccer, but then the color guys just say nothing. What about you? Who's got the best of each style?
It also depends. Like if you look at, like, for example, because there's so many commentators in soccer, right? Mm-hmm. Like the national broadcast in Colombia, they're really good, and they'll put nicknames to players, and it gets pretty interesting.
He's not lying. One time, so when we watch it in my house, my wife won't let me listen to the American feed. She pulls the radio feed up. And puts it over the TV. Yeah. And there's one time Colombia scored. This was against Argentina years ago. And the commentator starts screaming. And then in the end, my wife starts laughing. And I knew no Spanish at the time. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? He goes, the commentator is saying on the national feed, tell my wife I'm not coming home tonight.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I think soccer's pretty good. Recently, I saw a cat went into a game. I think it was the Wolves playing Everton. Yeah. And they were doing like a play-by-play of that, and that was pretty fun because that stalled the game. But yeah, I mean,
any commentators of note that stand out to you outside of MMA?
No.
Nobody? You're fun. Not too. What do you got, Phoenix?
Well, outside of combat sports in general?
You could say outside of MMA. If there's something in like another related combat sport.
I will say this. I've never watched hockey before, and I saw it live, and then I was like, this sport's
At the
actually...
Garden?
No, I was somewhere. I was in Canada, coincidentally, right?
Hockey is awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, how come
Especially
I've never
live.
watched this? This is crazy.
Hockey is
because
crazy.
when you watch it on TV, you don't realize like how fast they're going and how insane.
They are locomotives on ice.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
So after I saw it live, I decided to watch it on TV just to kind of see how it translates. And the color commentator was amazing because you have to speak so fast about the action that's happening as it's happening.
No breaks in,
No breaks. Like, how's this guy breathing? So I found that to be pretty amazing.
Like the puck goes possession to possession so quick, and then the line changes.
Yeah.
What's his face? Doc Emmerich to me is like the god of all gods, and he's the head hockey commentator for national games for NBC. So he's amazing to watch. But what about you, Chuck? What do you think?
I mean, I do appreciate really good commentary and really good color, from a booth. And I guess traditionally there's a lot of good football guys over the years. I always loved Pat Summerall for his economy of, he didn't have to tell you anything. He would just say like one word as Jerry Rice is racing down for a 70-yard touchdown or something like that. And somehow that just made the moment seem bigger. I like guys who have that kind of command,
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite catchphrase that commentators say?
It's all over.
You like that one?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't like that one.
Goldie,
is
shut
all.
up.
Yeah. What about you? Is there any famous catchphrase, either to open a broadcast or for a score or to close?
Not that I can remember out of the top of my head.
What about you, Chuck? Anything else like that?
Maybe like Harry Carey's like "Holy cow" or something like that. It's got to be just one of those ones that you hear repetitively, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, nothing else really strikes me. But I will say that I watch a lot of Rockies baseball. I grew up in Colorado, so I watch them, and their guys are really, really good. Drew Goodman, I mean, he's like, it's almost insane to think about talking for 162 games and finding through 9 innings or more and finding interesting things to talk about.
Yeah.
Not just stats, but just interesting things to talk about, and he does a great job of it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised how good guys are for like local NBA or NHL teams. In DC, there's a guy who's really good. John Walton was the guy who did the Caps call when the Caps won the Stanley Cup, so shouts to John Walton. He's amazing. I'm trying to think like national broadcasters. You know who I think is the best sports broadcaster, period? For play-by-play, I'd say Doc Emmerich for NHL. I think Kirk Herbstreit is
he's really good.
Amazing. Tony Romo's pretty good.
Yeah.
Tony Romo,
He's getting all the love right now.
Like when Tony Romo was getting his back broken, I was cheering like, kill him, kill Tony Romo. And then he retires and he starts commentating and he's like, well, they're in cover 2 man zone. And all of a sudden he goes, it's like he's like they're gonna run it to the left, and they run it exactly the way he says it. I was like, God damn, Tony Romo's good. There was a great Onion article. It was like, Tony Romo wishes he could draw upon his insight of the game when he was a quarterback. In any event, so I would say Kirk Herbstreit's my favorite sports commentator on the color side. I think he's very good. All right, next. This is the last one. We got one more after this one. Is this the last one? Okay, there we go.
Jeez.
What's the best show of sportsmanship you've ever
think you can just flip files in your mind. Jeez.
I know, right? What's the best show of sportsmanship you've ever seen in MMA? I actually love this question.
It is a great question, but I feel like I've seen a lot of them, and I'm going to have to...
I've got 2. Can I go first?
Go
I've
ahead.
got 2.
We'll go.
Actually, then you go first.
Yeah.
So, Damian Maia fought Neil Magny, right?
Yes.
And I think like weeks after, Damian Maia, or maybe the week after, hosted a seminar.
Example, yeah.
And Neil Magny, like, I think DM'd him. He's like, yo, is it okay if I come to your seminar? And Damian Maia is like, yeah, for sure. And then he came to a jiu-jitsu seminar and taught him a bunch of tricks and, you know, former opponent.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I love it. Damian, by the way, Damian Maia, another guy who was great at UFC Fortaleza. Just great to see him doing well. Anything that stands out to you, Phoenix?
Lyoto Machida's behavior always, I mean, because karate was like my first art too, so that always like kind of stuck in my head. But was just kind of
he knocked out Ryan Bader and was
just kind of seeing how Lyoto behaved.
Didn't he like knock out Mark Munoz and then he
Yes.
held back? He could have gone and landed that extra hit.
Because he knew that he had knocked him out and he just waited and
That's always nice. Yeah.
I don't have a real specific.
Chuck's like, I can name 20 lack of sportsmanship.
That's true.
There are a lot more examples of that. I mean, I feel like I've seen a ton of them. Like, you know, Pat Barry, I know that when he, you know, there's guys who shout out something that happened tragically in our country that, you know, or whatever, and you're like, wow, how'd they have the presence of mind to actually talk about these things and their situations, so you could go that direction. But I feel like this sport doesn't lack that. I feel like there is a lot of sportsmanship. Even the guys who hate each other, you'll see them embrace after a fight or something like that. And there is something about the threshold coming down at that moment that I really love about the sport.
I'll say I was captured iconically by Ireland Esther Lynn was when Mayhem Miller defeated Kazushi Sakuraba and then stood up and bowed.
I've got that blown up in my office set.
It's really iconic because of the way they shot it, or the way she shot it, I should say, with the lighting and then the moment and then the look on everyone's face.
He's just flat.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, it was great. It's one of my favorite moments as well.